Call the meeting to order. Misty, would you call the roll, please?
David Burris,
Here.
J.R. Huddleston,
Here.
Deborah Johnston, Bill Lucan,
Here.
Larry Pratt,
Here.
Craig Romey,
Present.
Caitlin Turner, Linda Barbell. Here.
Would you join me in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as always, council, remember, if you have any conflicts of interest, please let the council know before you vote. Any motion to approve an amended agenda for tonight? On the current claims. It's on page 3. Staples. We're removing that from the bills. So that would bring the new amount for the current claims to $130,872.95. Is that correct, Misty?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so again, removing the payment to Staples on page 3 for $17.74. Brings current claims to a new total of $130,872.95. Get a motion for the amended agenda?
On that same one, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended bills in between our current claims. Aaron, what you said, right?
Yes.
Except I would like to table on page 9, center of the page, $4,382.51 to serve Pro Rapid City until we can get some more information.
We can provide you more information when we get into the current claims discussion. Yes, it is on current, but we do have more information to provide you at the time. So you want that removed also? Now, Councilman Holston is asking to remove the current, on page 9 and 7, for Servpro.
Calculate the balance. $126,490.44.
Repeat, please.
126,490.44.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the amended minutes for tonight with the change under current claims to total $126,490.44.
Do you want a second, JR's?
Nope.
I did not make any motion.
Oh, okay.
She's correct.
I'll part that.
Okay.
That way.
Second.
Bill?
Second.
Discussion?
Why do you want to remove that, Taylor?
I'm hearing conflicting stories, I guess you will. If you, the city versus the homeowner's responsibility for that particular line item. I understand what was presented before by our committee members on what happened with that particular project we had to fix. But I'm also hearing that our claims adjuster that says we should not pay it. So I would like to get some more information, both sides, before I make a vote on yes to pay this and no not to. I'm conflicted, and I'd rather see us get it right than to get us into trouble.
And I'm prepared to answer those questions for you tonight.
My concern is the adjuster.
Well, we're getting into the discussion of it. I'm prepared to answer those questions. If you're okay with leaving it on the agenda or on the claims and then deciding whether you want to vote for or against it at that point. But I am ready to answer your questions.
Would you like me to change that total back to the upper total? We'll discuss it.
Again, I'm prepared to answer questions tonight. If the council wants to vote on the current claims leaving out my name. I'm satisfied I'll give you enough information so you're comfortable in how you vote on it. That would be my preference.
I will amend my motion to approve tonight's agenda, current claims total adjustment to $130,872.95.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes, no.
Got it.
All right. The motion passes for amended agenda. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 18th council meeting.
Made a motion to approve the minutes of October 18th council.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Need a motion to approve the bills in between.
Make a motion to approve bills in between for $170,581.93.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. A motion to approve an amended current claims.
Make a motion to approve the amended current claims for the amount of $130,872.95.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
That's a request.
I apologize for Robert's rule of order. I was out of order in asking for this to be tabled before it came up from the council. Now I'm concerned about that line item on page 9 at the center. To pay Sir Crow of Rapid City $4,382.51. Again, to what I was saying, I was hearing conflicting stories, one from our committee, one from or what bits and pieces I have from the adjuster, our insurance adjuster on this particular item. And I would rather get more information from both for my, I guess, well-being and whether I'm going to vote yes or no. Get the information about this and whether we're opening a Pandora's box here. If we do approve it and we follow our insurance and our insurance adjuster's decision not to pay this. So that's where I stand, asking to table that line item out of the center page.
It's a fair question. I need to apologize.
I was out of order.
All right, so this has been discussed in Public Works. Let's start there. What's the discussion for Public Works and the recommendation?
Public Works has gone over this for approximately 3 months. Way back and forth, and we both, as chairs for this, and a third council person, weighed this out. Bringing in Tracy Bastian, which is our engineer, and wastewater workers. It is pretty much a solid yes across the board that we failed, our equipment failed, and it ended up causing the flood of the property. And we all agreed that we would recommend that we pay this. And yes, I do understand that we all understood that insurance adjuster said that he wouldn't pay it. But then again, they haven't ever paid anything on any of these before in the past, and we've never had a position, not claims in general, claims of flooding.
Oh, they have paid some through claims in the past.
Okay, that's news because that's not what I was told originally. But anyway, taking in our workers, our engineer, they all admit that our equipment failed, and this is the cause of the flooding. Now, if it would have went through pipes, that would be a completely different situation, but it didn't. The pressure, due to hydraulicking, means there was a onslaught because we had, this happened during the Arts and Crafts Festival. More people than the system would take, and somebody had, or multiples, I guess I shouldn't pin it on one person, but stuff was put down the toilets that should have never been put down the toilets. In doing so, it clogged the system, and with that much pressure on it, it hydraulic and pushed the water through the walls, the manhole, which was not a solid, updated cement manhole. It is a rock and mortar and brick that is well over 60 years old. It failed, pushed it through the cobblestone ground and right through the walls. Pretty much that in a nutshell is it. Craig, would you like to add anything?
I argued the same point you did, JR, at first. But after I seen the pictures and how it went through his cement wall, it didn't go through the pipes. And knowing the manhole is, they say about 100 years old, should have been replaced years ago. I can see how it could be the city's problem. So I agreed with Dave and Deborah. I think we should cover that cost. I'm not saying cover the whole cost of the basement because they had to tear all these walls and everything out, but I think we have to cover the cost of cleaning up.
Deb, would you like to add anything to that?
I agree that, it was a system failure and I do believe the manhole is 125 years old and not a solid structure. And, so, yes, for everything you've said, I agree with you guys that, the city should at least help pay the cleanup costs. It's not the total cost of what that whole thing costs the homeowner, but, we do need to take responsibility for our system failures. And I don't think the insurance company is doing that for us.
Anybody else have any questions?
the heart of this conversation is the manhole, and the insurance company felt like the manhole didn't fail. It's already been talked about that this manhole is close to 100 years old. The construction of it then was not a solid piece. It was put up individually by bricks and mortar. And as Dave alluded to, if the manhole had not failed, in the discussion, the sewage would have come out of the top of the manhole. It wouldn't have come out the side of the manhole, percolate through the ground. This manhole is no more than 15 feet from the individual's basement. So by coming out the side of the manhole, percolating through the ground, and then through the basement to the property owner, everyone was confident that comfortable that the manhole did fail. That was explained to the insurance adjuster when the question was raised after the recommendation came from Public Works to pay the bill. Why are we doing this? Tracy Bastian and I got on the phone again with the adjuster, explained the situation, and were unable to convince him that the city system failed. And they continued to deny paying the claim.
And there has been a new manhole put in since.
Our manhole failed and has been replaced with a new manhole. So that's the reason the recommendation is in front of you in this particular case to pay it. You make a fair point. Do we set precedents? We always talk about decisions that council makes, and does that set a precedence going forward? We'll have to address each one of them as they arise. This comparison has been made to other claims that the city would not pay. That was related directly to the sewer pipes themselves and whether they failed or not. Council approved purchase of a $60,000 camera for us to be able to begin imaging our sewer systems and make sure that we're identifying the ones that are at risk for failure. Tracy and the sewer department have already identified the oldest pipes in the city to begin looking at those first. So we are taking proactive steps to make sure that we don't find ourselves in this situation before again. There's always that risk. But we feel this is the right decision in this particular case.
Has Garland given us, has our city attorney given us any advice on this?
I haven't asked him about it.
I haven't, he has not.
The cost that we're talking about here is $4,300. And I'll give you the exact amount. Give me 1 second here.
4382.51.
There you go. And all we are accepting here as far as an expense is to clean the cleaning of his home and making sure that there's not a problem with black mold, any of that will relate back to us down the road. The house will be clean, certified clean, so we know that we are taking care of that health issue. We are not going anywhere near replacing walls, furniture, carpet, anything, drywall, anything like that. What we are talking about is making the home safe to live in again. And I think that is the responsibility of a city council, is to make sure that the citizens are taken care of in predicaments like this, when it is our responsibility for these services. So I don't feel that our committee is asking anything out of the ordinary that anybody else living in the city of Hot Springs would be asking.
I guess my concern, and I am torn between both. I understand catastrophic failure of our city manhole, which is no fault to us, no fault to the homeowner. But I'm also concerned about the insurance and what the adjuster says, and not being able to convince him or her, whoever it was, that it was a catastrophic failure of our manhole that we should be responsible for, that our insurance should cover. not being able to convince that individual concerns me. I'm not saying it didn't happen, don't get me wrong there. I'm just saying, I think maybe just me or insurance should have stepped up and taken care of the problem and wouldn't follow the city's lap to pay that bill. So yeah, I am toward both sides. I understand, and it's a mess. And I appreciate the work that everybody did to get it corrected, so the individual doesn't have that happen again, and we can take care of the cleanup. But I do also feel that the insurance should have stepped up, and it still should step up and pay this bill, and not the city.
Can I agree with you there?
I agree.
So I find a hard time approving that.
Yeah, everyone agrees, that's what we pay insurance for. In other arguments, is the city liable or not? I think we do have some responsibility in this over 100 years. We could have done a better job of assessing our manholes and determining when they needed to be replaced, rather than actually having a failure that forced us to replace it. But we have some responsibility there. And had we been doing that, we might not be looking at this.
Thank you for the explanation.
Anyone else have any comments, questions? All right. All in favor of approving the amended current claims?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. A motion to approve the Wells Fargo credit card.
I'll make a motion to approve the Wells Fargo credit card claims in the amount of $7,901.63.
Second that motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Council updates. Andrea, Shanko.
This is my tech work. I worked earlier today, that doesn't mean we'll work from there. We'll let you know. I have a lot of little things, but I wanted to discuss the big wins for Hot Springs in the last quarter. That'll take up a little time. I applied for the Energize Conference to be held in Hot Springs the first Thursday, Friday of May, 2022. That is a conference that's presented by South Dakota State University Extension. And it travels back and forth between East River and West River every year, so 22 is a West River opportunity, and it's a competitive application. I've attended it every year. This last year was in Mill Bank, which is about 2,500 people, and 158 people attended, and $21,000 plus in tax revenue was generated. So that's a pretty good thing. The thing I really like about this conference is all the breakouts are held in different businesses throughout the downtown area. And there's about 30 to 45 minutes to walk between each venue, so all the attendees are getting to see all the storefronts, go inside, shop, and then they go into the business, sit down, have their breakout session, and they're sitting there looking at everything that's available in that business. So it's really good for the small businesses in the downtown area. And I should find out about it this week. I have contacted 12 businesses who are willing to be hosts, and then I also have a separate person committee to help me follow through with that if we do get the bid. It'll be very good for downtown. I think I shared last quarter that I was asked to join the South Dakota Walking College for 2021. That was a 3-month program for a cohort, and at the end of it, I had to submit an action plan. It was supposed to be a 5-year action plan. I did apply for 2 grants to fulfill, the pieces of that action plan. The first one was an America Walks grant that will cover the cost of 2 charging stations for residents with disabilities to travel along the Freedom Trail. So I should back up for a second. My action plan focused on residents with disabilities and creating greater ability to travel and attend recreational opportunities that occur in our park systems and along our trail. At the end of when I submitted this, I also applied for an AARP grant to fund a ADA compliant picnic table. I did notice that we have one on the pad where Parks and Rec is talking about putting in a shelter. And I really have to commend Parks and Rec because they've grabbed this by the horns and we're having discussions about putting up a shelter. One of the other recommendations that was made by the group of folks that use electronics assistive devices is that they need a hail shelter to get from one end of town to the other so that they're not caught out in the weather. So that's going along really well. It looks like 3 pieces of my 5-year plan might well be done in the first year, thanks to Parks and Rec. So I really want to appreciate Larry for all the work you're doing. Yeah,
Good job.
pretty cool. Change Makers Committee. As you know, I've been working with the school district to put together some community-driven internships to beef up their senior project. The internships for 1 credit will be 150 hours of participation in the internship, and for 2 credits, they will be 300 hours. That's what the state says is needed for an internship fulfillment. Our committee's been working on putting together a jobs board with job descriptions for the seniors to choose from for their internships. And we will be finishing that up on November 12th. And then it'll be posted and the program will be launched in the 2nd semester of this year. So January-ish of 2022. Pretty nice. Is that a question? A little one, that question. I attended the Field of Growth Conference in Rapid City in September and the EDPA conference in October. That's the Economic Development Professionals Association. South Dakota was the last state in the country to form an Economic Development Professionals Association, and we had our inaugural conference in Fort Pierre. We were presented with you know how this state government always does a summer study? And this year it was housing in the summer of 2021, and it was headed by Senator Roger Chase. And I have I don't have copies for everyone, but these were some recommendations that they're going to be taking to the legislature at the beginning of 22. I have one extra one if somebody doesn't want to leave.
Are you gonna send me your notes for my minutes?
So some of the salient things about that are reducing the delinquent taxes from 5 to 3 years, using more lenient codes for residential construction that can be determined at the county or city level. And at the top, you will see an infrastructure program, I think was bullet 1. They would like for South Dakota Housing to launch an infrastructure program that would be similar to the business park infrastructure program. So they would fund up to a certain amount electric, water, and sewer for a new housing project. And in discussion, it came out that this is probably going to be a pilot program at first. So the city that's ready, shovel ready, will probably be the ones to get that initial grant. What I don't know and need to find out is if it needs to be city-owned property or can it be developer-owned property. and I will find it out too. Finally, the workforce recruitment grant that I submitted in October, we received $98,000. Sioux Falls got $100,000. So we got $2,000 less than Sioux Falls. That's going to be for bonuses and relocation costs for bar rental services to recruit 26 RN and LPNs. 5,000 of that will go towards marketing, and the other 92 will go towards the bonuses and relocation. It is a matching grant, so they will need to come up with the other 50%. So, for instance, if GOED provides 3,000 for a relocation bonus, they will provide another 3. And with that, I wanted to show you the potential impact that many new employees in the city would have on economic development and community in general. This is a report from EMSI. That's a labor market and economic development metadata analysis system. And this was generated late last week. So you can do it. Why not? I might have to,
Greg has a PC, I'll let you use.
You can have it.
Yeah.
it's frozen. What? And we go all the way out. That's great. Welcome back. Right. So this database collects information from the current Census Bureau, American Community Survey, Bureau of Economic Analysis, product accounts, input, output, making use tables, and gross state data, and the South Dakota Department of Labor and Regulation, along with their own proprietary magic. Changes to the medical, to general medical and surgical hospitals using the type EMSI mode. The change in earnings would be $2,128,696. Did I get that right? $2,128,696. That is the total wages paid for the 26 jobs and 7 spin-off jobs. The 37, that would be including the spin-off jobs, has a multiplier of 1.43. That's all very specific to hot springs. Okay? This is more than I know. I'm sharing with you the knowledge to the best of my ability, okay? And then the change in taxes on production and imports. This for us is only property and sales tax, since we have no import production taxes. Can you see that back there, Greg? So these are all the jobs that would be impacted, the changes. You can see retail trade would need to increase by 1, professional, scientific, and technical by 1. Why administrative is in the white, I have no idea, but that's 1. And then your healthcare and social assistance will be 28, so that's 2 support plus the 26 initial, 2 accommodation for food services, and then other services except public administration. By industry, you've got the same 37 positions rolled out in another way: finance and insurance, real estate planning, professional, scientific, and technical services, private administration, healthcare, and other services. The effect on earnings. The direct wages is 108 million. The bills the hospital would have to pay for equipment, et cetera, would be $178,221. That is not just the hot springs, that would be everything. The secondary supplies would be $23,281. Again, that's not just hot springs, because we don't have a lot of supplies for healthcare services. And the $160,693 is consumer spending locally, so that's what those people would be spending annually.
Per person.
I would love to say that.
I was gonna say, that's some good wages.
Yes. Effect on jobs from adding to 26 jobs to Fall River Health Services is, the initial number is 26. The direct multiplier is 5 support jobs, that's within the hospital. 1 indirect multiplier, that's, I don't really understand this. The gentleman I was working with told me that's 2 steps removed. So I don't know if that's like this. I don't understand that statistic. I wish I could, I'm sorry. And I could ask for more information on it. And then 5 induced multipliers, that's unrelated consumer spending. The 2 steps removed is retail or accommodations. And this is the effect on taxes. So locally, the annual taxes would be collected at $46,845. The state would get $41,477, and federal $24,909.
So it's just the 1 year deal?
Yes, that's the 1 year, that's 1 year, except for the number of jobs. But the dollar amounts would be our annual.
But the jobs would be perpetual.
Oh, yes,
going forward.
yes. Is there any other questions about that?
Now, when you talk about surgical hospital, do we have surgical at our hospital?
We have the emergency services that are looking at a surgical unit. Right now, they're actively looking at moving 15 administrative positions into another building completely off campus because they've got to increase the clinic size. They're just to the max out there.
Thank you.
They've had surgery off and on depending on whether they
No,
have
I've known that,
surgery.
but that's why I was asking her.
Any other questions about that?
You mentioned there we need to move 15 positions out of the hospital somewhere else. Is that, are they looking
Oh,
at
yes.
buildings?
In the community,
Existing
they're
buildings.
just looking at administrative people who don't have to be actually in the clinic or the emergency room or the nursing home. And I suspect, this is me talking, not them, that once, if they can add on to their existing structure, then they would probably go back. And we've looked at building 1. Everything's been a consideration. The old vision source has been a consideration.
You know about
We are actively looking around.
building 1 at the VA, not the old soldiers' home.
Anything else? I think a big reason we got this grant is because Fall River Health Services is independently owned, so they could be nimble enough to meet the criteria of the grant, and we had 3 weeks to put it together. So a large, a monument type, just got too many legs to be able to be that flexible. Thank you. Any questions about any of that?
Thank you for all that.
And that is more than I know. Absolutely, let me just read this. Oh, can I share one other item? Legislative priorities for 2022 are strengthen and expand South Dakota's investment in workforce housing initiative projects and programs, diversify and grow South Dakota's economy through investment in innovative workforce development and recruitment initiatives, support continued investment in K-12 career technical, support continued investment in South Dakota's infrastructure, support expanding South Dakota's investment in innovative economic development initiatives, support strengthening and expanding community development and quality of life initiatives. This was presented to us at the EPA conference, and they asked us for our input, and it was pretty much unanimous that we need assistance with healthcare and also potential spec buildings for industrial parks. So that's the 2 that we added.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure.
Communications from the public. Would anybody like to address the council? Dear Cheryl.
Earlier this evening, I heard something about the Main Street Arts and Crafts Festival, something happened there, and contributed to the problem with the sewer. We're just curious to know, as a member of the committee, was it the crowd, or was it a vendor, or what was it allowed?
Couldn't blame it on any particular person. There was just things that you wouldn't put down a toilet. So it could have been something kids stuck down there, but you would have to ask Tracy what actually they found. So I couldn't honestly answer that question.
So Tracy would have to answer.
Yes.
Over here.
One thing that might have been mentioned was that it was a big festival, one of the biggest festivals we've had, so the increased usage might have had something to do with it as well.
And I forgot to ask Gerald to state his name and address for the record, so if you folks would do that.
Say that again?
State your name and address. Name and address.
Oh, Michael Halverson, 142 South Chicago.
Halverson, thank you.
And I got a question about the zoning for Bob Lee's Fix-It Shop. There's a guy living in the back of that, and I was just curious if that place is zoned for residential. I went down to City Hall today.
Okay, you're gonna have to speak up, and could you stand up so everybody can hear you?
I went down to City Hall, and they couldn't give me an answer. They didn't tell me to come to this meeting.
Whether Bob's Fix-It Shop down on Main Street has, commercial, if it's a commercial building, if people are allowed to live in the building, is what he's asking.
In a commercial building.
The old Rob's building.
That's,
Yeah, the apartment, not the apartment one, the actual Rob's building, there's a gentleman living in the back of that.
I don't think that's actually normal, but I can't honestly answer that, whether or not that falls in line with being in or out of code. I would have to, you're catching me off guard. I have no information to give you. I don't have no books in front of me to look up the law, so.
I know a few years ago when we did the, what is it? The old
It's a work,
drugstore, they had to have some sort of permit to build an apartment.
it's on review.
Yeah.
It would be something under review, and I'm thinking that would fall in the same category, but I can't honestly answer that question and be firm on my answer, to be honest with you. But we can look into that and find, they are presently living there, or they are setting it up to live.
Yeah, he's living.
It's not even an apartment. There is a toilet back there and it's a garage. Interior, sir. It's not.
It doesn't sound like it would fall within code because it doesn't sound like was ever set up for a dwelling. Now, I've been inside Rob's many times years ago, but it was never set up for a living quarters. So I don't think that is correct. I don't think he should be, but like I said, without having the books in front of me, I can't honestly answer that question for you. But we will look into that. Thank you for your information.
Thank you.
Do you have a contact number or something that you can write down rather than sharing with the public?
It would be the best if you would go down to City Hall and fill out a form, nuisance form, so we can investigate. That will give us your information, your name, so you don't have to do that here in the public, and your phone number and stuff like that. So we can answer your question, but actually find out what the codes are as far as that goes. But shooting from the hip, I'm gonna have to honestly say it does not sound proper.
Thank you.
But can you do that? Would you do that for me?
Yes, I will.
And I will let Mary and Barb know in the front that you would be coming down, so.
Anyone else?
Valerie Henry, 302 South 19th Street, Hudson. I had a question about the fireworks ordinance that we're trying to put in. You guys had said that you can't have fires in the Black Hills Fire Protection District, which is true. But the Black Hills Forest Fire Protection District does not include any area within the limits of the municipality. And you know, I think we've had a lot of problems with fireworks last week. I think we turned into several days. It was complete chaos. I love letting kids do it, my own kids, my dogs hate it. I don't particularly care for it, but I figured that one night a year that we're allowed, and many years, you aren't even allowed it just because of the fire's danger, you know? But I think it's a bad idea to take away that one night of it. As it is, ordinance doesn't allow for them, you know, the great big boomers that people still do anyway, but to not be able to even let off fountains or things like that in town for one night a year, I feel like it's kind of misrepresenting to everybody that it was just illegal flat out, we couldn't do it, which isn't true. You know, Custer doesn't do it, Hill City doesn't do it, because look at what's around it. Wall does it, Pennington County does it, you know, Underwood does it, depending on the stuff. I mean, and those are all within the Black Hills Fire Protection District. So I personally would hate to see it where it's just smoke bombs and sparklers. I think that one night a year, it's a fun thing for kids. You're never gonna, as horrible as it is, it's always chaotic. There's always gonna be people who are disobeying the law, but I think it's caused a lot more problems in recent years just because there's so many days. And then on the side note of that, I think I put it all over Facebook too. I've always hated this since we moved it to the dump because half of the community can't see it. When it used to be above the park, we moved it because we built the library. But I used to see all the residents of the Evans lined up out there, and they could sit out on their porch and watch it, and people all over town could. Out there at the dump, I live 2 blocks from the dump, and I can't see them. They're so low that nobody can see them. And so I sit across the park, Greg knows where I sit, that trailer park, and watch those fireworks. Watch little kids sitting between trucks and cars, lawn chairs, run out with semis, ripping down that highway. That is the most dangerous setup of all time for people to be with fireworks display.
I agree with that. But back when I was growing up, there was no fireworks, anything except south of Cheyenne River.
Yep, me
Because
too.
we used to have to go to the Cheyenne River Bridge, set them up,
Me too, I remember that.
because it was Black Hills Fire Protection District.
Right, but now, like I said, just what the law says, that does not apply to within a municipality. Unless you guys pass it by ordinance to where we can't do it in town, you guys can't allow them. you know, with your limitations still, I think it was 8 foot high is what it's usually at. We're not supposed to have anything over 8 foot high.
Would you, okay, now you said what your issue with it is. Can you give me what you might think would be a solution?
How about we do this? You'll see on the agenda tonight that the second reading of that ordinance is in front of the council. We have been kicking this around, we've asked our city attorney his opinion on it, and we're at a point where we want to have more discussion to address what you're talking about.
Right.
I hope the public doesn't view that as we're waffling or we can't figure out where we want to be. We just recognize that is as much conversation as there was last year, and we felt we were heading down the right road, and it was brought to our attention that the Black Hills Fire Protection District needed to be considered, and now there's some interpretation on that, would ask Bill to continue with that. But as far as answering the questions back and forth tonight, Councilman Luca is proposing something that I think would be a better solution than trying to fix it here tonight.
So that second reading won't be passed. Well, second reading means it's ordinance, right?
If it's approved, yes.
Right.
And there will be enough changes, it appears there will be enough changes to it, that we would need to have another first reading. So rather than approving the second reading tonight, I'm gonna ask to table it and send it back to committee for further discussion, and Bill has some ideas on how to proceed with that.
Okay.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but there will be that opportunity to ask and answer the questions that,
Does that mean that there will not be any discussion tonight on the second ordinance?
yes. Well, if the council decides to table it, and again, Bill will explain why we think that's the best solution for tonight.
There will be discussion before we even approve the table. There will be, when we get to that point in the agenda.
Then I will reserve comment until we reach that point in the agenda.
Right.
Yeah, so yes, there will be discussion. Okay,
To clarify, that would be public safety committee, right?
I'm prepared to talk anytime with it, whether it's in the discussion on the second reading or during public safety.
No, the committee that he's gonna forward it back to.
Yeah, yes, it'll go to public safety. We started it, we gotta finish it.
you had talked about giving the public more opportunity.
Yes.
In the separate meeting, so do you want to discuss that during your public safety? When would you like to share that information?
For the folks that may not want to sit for the entire council meeting, if I could share that during discussion on the second reading. You know, everybody's more than welcome to sit for the entire meeting, but I think what we've got in mind will address your concerns.
You okay with that? Yeah. All right. Any other communications from the public?
Mike Summers, 2035 Spring Avenue. This is in regards to your vote again tonight for the rates for Wheeler Center for track and the gymnastics for the youngsters. At our meeting last Monday night, we just were talking about it and how we don't want it for free. And I know I wasn't present at the committee meeting for Parks and Rec, but that there may be an option for a nonprofit rate, which would be dynamite because that obviously would not affect your star group, but could affect others in the community. Because that there's a charge for the gymnastics itself. The state considers that a service, so there are taxes applied that the group has to pay for that. And this is based on the 2020 tax return for 19. That $300 was indeed paid to the city for taxes and $550 to the state. So, even though the group is taking money in for the opportunity for the kids to come in and do that, there's some outgoing money from us as well. And just to add one more thing, this year we have 4 coaches for this gymnastics group, and they all receive raises. So it's considered a fundraiser for our group, but there's also cash in there. So just something.
Anyone else?
I just have another comment about the same thing, like, I'm a parent, I've got 3 daughters, oh, sorry, I have Laura Smith, she's 75, she's back home road. I've got 3 children that I have invested in this program, and they even got turned on to gymnastics through the city's summer rec program. And I thought that was such a fantastic thing to offer young children, because I have very young children, to be able to get out and start building up their physical coordination, strength and development, teamwork and everything. And I was really excited to hear encountered in the program to continue that, because they're not of the age in school, but you'll be able to do that big gap in that time. And they love the gymnastics, they want to continue doing it for years and years, and I can't afford to take them out traffic, look at my work schedule and finances. So it means a lot to my family and to a lot of other families to keep that program here. And to be able to kind of piggyback it as best we can, to not try to take something away from the city, to use the community center, but it's ought to be used for gymnastics. And it's offering that opportunity for more young children who don't have that other opportunity otherwise.
Anyone else? All right. Move on to personnel. Make a motion to approve personnel actions or items A through F.
Make a motion to approve personnel actions items A through F.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Brings us down to ordinance, the second reading of ordinance 1237. This is the fireworks ordinance that we've been talking about. And if we could get a motion to table this for further discussion and send it back to committee.
Make a motion to table ordinance 1237, ordinance revising title, General Regulations, Chapter 95, Fire Prevention and Protection, 93.06 fireworks.
Out the door. Okay,
Discussion.
yes, I have some discussion on this one. Valerie, first of all, I want to say, sometimes I don't like social media, but sometimes you get some information, and I can't remember who it was. I posted some information because someone had challenged what we're doing here, and so I tried to put a information-based reply out, and I got a information-based reply back. And one thing I would encourage the citizens to do is come to the council meetings and share your information and your concerns. Come to the committee meetings, because that's when we can have a really good exchange. Facebook is not the greatest place to do that, but basically, we were under the impression that we were in the Black Hills Forest Fire Protection District. You can go out online. The maps we were provided, it shows anything west of 79, north of Cheyenne River, east of the Wyoming border, south of I-90 is that district. That's one map. That's the one we had. I was forwarded another map that has an insert and a discussion that says municipalities are exempt. And it's like, how did I miss that one? And I look, oh, well, that's a 2014 map. I go into South Dakota codified law, it was updated in 2019. So I said, okay, I didn't mess up. Well, the district, the fire protection district is in one section of the law. The fireworks is in another section of the law. The fire protection district clearly states municipalities are exempt. However, when you read the fireworks section, it says everything within the exterior boundaries of the fire protection district, no fireworks. Okay. In my mind, I'm thinking Hill City, Custer, Hot Springs, we're all within the exterior boundaries of the fire protection district.
So I'm sorry, you're saying exterior, do you mean interior?
No, we are within the exterior boundaries.
That would mean that we are outside the boundaries of the fire protection district.
No, we're inside.
Exterior would, to me, is saying outside.
Right, we're inside the exterior boundaries.
We're on the edge.
When you draw the big circle that they define, we're inside that. And when you look at some of the maps that are provided, we're inside that. Bottom line, we needed an attorney to get a ruling, and our city attorney said, no, we are, as a municipality, we are exempt. So that's why we are tabling that, because we weren't trying to squelch anybody's fun. We are simply trying to comply with South Dakota codified law. Now, we knew we needed to do something after last year because we got a lot of comments. And so when we started looking at what do we need to do, at first it looked like the answer was very simple. We're within the boundaries, we can't do it. Okay, end of discussion. Our ordinance becomes very simple. Well, no, it's not that simple. So now, the second reading is likely to be tabled. So what we want to do is on Monday, the 15th of November, Public Safety is having our normal meeting. We meet at 10 a.m. I'm going to reserve from about 11:30 on, and if we have to run past 12 o'clock, we'll do it, to if anybody would like to come and give us your opinion. And right now I've got about 3 potential options that we can talk about, and there's probably more.
That will be held where?
That'll be held in the conference room here at the Mueller Center. One option is we still go with a full-blown prohibition, we just write it into our ordinance. Option 2 is we go back to the way the ordinance was before we thought we fixed it last year, which says nothing more than 7 feet high. Yeah, it was 7 feet high, which kind of limits your to cones and fountains. And it was only on the 4th of July, I think. Or maybe we say we go ahead and go with everything goes on the 4th of July. Because we have 2 major considerations. We have to manage the fire risk. I've done an estimate on Google Earth. We have 8 miles of forest urban interface around our city. We have about 5 miles of forest-urban interface throughout the city. So we have a lot of opportunities to set fire from fireworks next to our city and within our city. So we've got the fire hazard issue we have to manage. We are also, as we've heard testimony in this at this council, we have a lot of folks that suffer from PTSD. And I don't believe we can allow 2 weeks of what we allowed last year. When Mayor Nelson and I visited with the folks at the VA, when we were addressing trying to get some information on the fire siren as well as the fireworks issue, we talked with those folks, and many of them said, I know I need to be able to manage a trigger. One thing is, okay, I know the city is going to set off their fireworks show at 9:30 on the 4th of July, 9:30 p.m. on the 4th of July. I can prepare myself for that. Another thing is, it's going to sound like Baghdad 1990 for 2 solid weeks. We have to be sensitive to the population in this city. We claim to be the veterans town. So we have to find some proper ground. I'm not even going to call it a middle ground, but we have to be sensitive to the health issues of our citizens. And I don't know what that is yet, but that's why we're going to dedicate the last portion of the public safety meeting on Monday, November 15th, starting about 11:30 a.m. in the Mueller Center conference room. If you've got an opinion, come give us your opinion on what you would like to see and why. And we'll put that into the mix and go forward from there. But yeah, we are trying to do it right. Again, with what we've had before us on this ordinance, we thought we were simply complying with state law, and that's all we were trying to do. Not trying to ruin anybody's party. And I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder or not, Robert, but one of the issues we have, regardless of what our ordinance looks like, is enforcement. The 4th of July is literally the least favorite day of our police department because they get call after call after call of citizens complaining about other citizens that are shooting off fireworks, either illegal fireworks or fireworks outside of the prescribed time. When we made the last revision, we made the penalty very severe. It was a $500 fine, which is the maximum a Class 2 misdemeanor can carry. The problem is, unless a police officer witnesses a violation, if Larry calls up and says, Barb's shooting fireworks off, it's just hearsay unless Larry is willing to sign a complaint. And that's when it kind of gets potentially unfriendly because now it's neighbor signing a complaint against a neighbor. Now, the way to solve that is very simple. It's whatever we settle on as far as an ordinance, we need to communicate that ordinance and everybody just needs to follow it. It's very simple. Follow the law, no problem.
I will say one thing. I wasn't challenging it. I was one posted on Facebook. I came to the meeting and I said, tonight, city council did this first reading, I wanted everybody to know, because for years, I've came to city council meetings, and people never come, people have no idea, and they're furious when something comes through. So if something big's gonna change, and I think people might wanna know, I'm gonna put it on Facebook, so maybe somebody will come to a meeting.
Thank
You
you.
sit in this empty theater all the time, but I wasn't challenging you.
No,
And also, I did not know this about the law. I spent substantial time doing research before I found that piece that you didn't know about either. I did as well. So,
and we had been given guidance from some folks that we thought knew, and so, yeah, it's, I guess that's why we have lawyers as much as,
that don't always work either, so.
so, anyway, thanks, Valerie. Yeah, Larry,
Valerie,
Yes.
I'm a veteran. I have severe PTSD. Spent a year in Korea. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, sitting here tonight talking about what we're talking about, and I'm a little shaky. Okay. If you use Facebook properly, put that information out there, I invite all veterans to come to this meeting and talk. If they feel safe enough, come talk. Because as vets, we can't talk to civilians. We can talk to each other. But if we have enough, as a group, we can talk to ourselves because of the experiences that we've had and what we've been through. Most civilians think they know, but they don't. They don't have a clue. So I encourage you to post it, okay? Thank you, ma'am.
I can do that. I will definitely do that.
Robert Paul, 1327 Schofield Street. Bill, in order to respond to your comments, and I certainly understand where you're coming from at the last meeting and explaining the fire protection district and so forth, and how you certainly want to comply with that. And I applaud that. And I applaud the effort and the time that you folks have put into looking at this and recrafting an ordinance. What happened this past year was totally out of bounds. And I've come to these meetings enough years that I have heard this discussion more than once or twice. And I've heard from both sides, people that just think we should just open everything up and the sky's the limit, just do whatever we damn well want to do on the 4th of July to celebrate our independence, to versus veterans that are coming in saying, with almost tears in their eyes, don't do this. It really disturbs us. But to have this drag on night after night after night that happened this past year, and in listening to the fireworks, and in listening to the discussions of the fireworks over the past years, I might be naive. I might have been misled somewhere along the line. I was under the impression that in order for the city to send off the fireworks displays, that they had to have certified people set off the fireworks. Is that true or not true?
Yes.
yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay. Why is it that there's fireworks being shot by normal citizens that are far beyond anything that you guys do? Should there not be certification for that?
There's two classes of fireworks, as I understand it. There are consumer fireworks that you can buy from the stands south of Cheyenne River. And those are legal to purchase in the state of South Dakota, and they're addressed in codified law. What the city shoots off are called display fireworks. They are purchased from a licensed vendor. It requires training and certification. And they're literally two different classes of fireworks, but I understand things that I see and hear that are now consumer fireworks. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference.
Certainly from my standpoint.
But yeah, no, if you can buy it from a fireworks stand, that is a on the American Pyrotechnics Association, it's a consumer fireworks. It is not a display fireworks that the city purchases. Yeah, it's,
Okay? The enforcement aspect of this, what you're explaining is that a police officer has to physically see somebody shoot off these illegal fireworks before they can cite them with a citation. Is that correct?
that's my understanding. They either have to witness it or they have to have a signed complaint.
I do know one year they stopped in front of my house, I'm not going to lie, my sons had a bunch of fireworks, but we were the only ones there. I'm the only person of age who wasn't outside, but he knew it was my house. And he came up and said, "All those fireworks in front of your house are illegal in Hot Springs," because they were over the 8 foot, they had some loud, ridiculous things, but, and he said, "So here's your warning, if I come back, I'm citing you." But in that situation, I can see why, nobody else was letting them off around me, I'm right in front of my house, I'm the adult, I'm gonna get it. But I do think what you're saying in situations like our trailer park up there, where it was complete chaos, how would you know? How would you know when there's 50 people all up there, you're gonna point the finger at other people?
How many officers are actually out patrolling on the 4th of July evening when the fireworks are going off?
Typically, on the 4th of July, there are,
Or days before or after?
yeah, and this one was tough because it was so long, but normally we'll have 2 officers and we'll pull as many reserves out as we can get. So we may have 3 or 4.
So the likelihood of having any citations issued is not real high. So in essence, as far as ordinance, what we're asking for is people to kind of comply and to play nice.
Yeah.
It's much like a speeding ticket, if you will. I saw this guy who was driving down University, 40 mile an hour in a 15 mile an hour school zone.
And
If the cop doesn't see it, he can't write it.
And if he doesn't have it locked in radar, he ain't gonna write it.
It's just me the same. So it's actually no different with the fireworks. So I saw Bob. Bob was shooting off this 40-footer, rattled my windows. The best the officer could do is go to Bob and say, "Quit shooting off 40-footers, it's gonna rattle JR's windows." It's the best he can do.
That doesn't prevent you from taking video footage.
Yeah.
And here's my plea when I say, please, whatever we come up with, comply with the ordinance, because 2021 was probably the best year for getting it wrong we could have possibly had, because we had the wettest 4th of July probably in ages. In 2020, on the 4th of July, there were 2 fires south of town, both set by fireworks. So all of Hot Springs Volunteer Fire Department was dispatched along with South Dakota Wildland, the local South Dakota Wildland Fire was south of town fighting not only grass fires, but structure fires started by fireworks. At the same time, there was a fatal motorcycle accident just north of town on 385 that our police officers had to respond to. So if something had gone on in town just because people wanted to shoot fireworks, there was no fire, there was no police, there was no sheriff, there was no ambulance. That's how dispersed. And that was with a county-wide fireworks ban issued by the county emergency manager. So when we're talking about all this, it's serious stuff because things do happen. 2020 was a very dry year. So
In 2008, I believe it was, we've gone through a 7 to 8 year drought. For 7 to 8 years, we couldn't let off fireworks in town because it was that dry. It was terrible. And I remember Angie Willis was a police officer at the time, and she pulled up at the neighbor's house, got out of her car, opened her trunk, and said, "Put it in there." There was kids standing up the street. The trunk was level with fireworks. Those were some bad years. If anybody was here during those times, that drought was ridiculous. And, I mean, you could have caught your own yard on fire, burned the whole town down. It was a bad drought. And, the police officers will all tell you that the enforcement's ridiculous. It's impossible. Whether we have fire restrictions, on the sign where it says low or high, and when I think it's when it's medium, we can't even do fireworks, isn't it?
Very high and extreme.
Yeah, and, people are still going to disobey it. I would love to say that whether this ordinance is passed or not, if it's banned or not, that it won't. But it will when we can have a fireworks stand just outside that fire protection area.
I guess what,
Unfortunately, sorry.
I guess what I'd like to say is if anyone has any more comments, please bring them to public safety on November 15th. And
I will try to make that meeting, but I would like to add one other thing. I've got a sizable property in this town that is not all manicured, so to speak. And if I have neighbors shooting off fireworks that happen to fall onto my property and create a fire, this little fiasco that you're running into, the manhole and so forth, might seem small potatoes.
I'm going to give you all the support from an ordinance standpoint that we can.
Well, I'll very much try to make this meeting so that I can add a little more input to this and to get a little better grasp on the things that you guys are going through. I sympathize with where you're at because no matter what you decide, you're going to get nailed. And I'm supportive of the effort that you're trying to make. I'm totally in support of what you had come up with before on the state regulated type fireworks for the fire improvement district. If you want to expand on that as a municipal, I guess the thing that I would rather not see is another fiasco like last year, where there were fireworks that were far beyond whatever the city was shooting off.
Big time.
In size, in scope, and in volume,
But you remember right on.
and in magnitude.
You remember right on our street, right on that one street?
Yep.
That you walked on.
Yep.
That family, and that family, all got right there.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom.
I know everyone on the street that was shooting fireworks off.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Council,
Rob.
anyone else have any comments? All right. So we have a motion to table the second reading of ordinance 1237. Ms. Stevens, call the roll, please.
David Burris,
Yes.
J.R. Huddleston,
Yes.
Deborah Johnston,
Yes.
Bill Lukens,
Yes.
Larry Fratch,
Yes.
Greg Romy,
Yes.
Caitlin Turner. Yes. Linda Barbell.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the motion passes. The next item in front of us is old business, and before I ask for a motion on the old business, I want to explain to you why it's back on the agenda as old business. This was in front of you at the last council meeting, and after the vote was over, Misty had said you'd have a tie vote. I heard her say you have 5 votes. That's why I responded so quickly to say the motion passes. What I heard, my 67-year-old ears, is you have 5 votes. Okay? We didn't. We had a tie vote. So as a tie vote, as mayor, I have the option to break the tie or let the tie stand. Because the public was left with the impression that by my saying the motion passes, that I had voted to break the tie to pass it. The opinion from the attorney is it needs to come back on the agenda, have it re-voted on again, and if there is a tie vote again, then I need to say, that I need to break the tie or I need to not vote to break the tie. So that's why it's back in front of you tonight for reconsideration. So with that, old business item A, the possible motion discussion to approve contract 2021-10.
And
I'll make the motion to approve contract 2021-10 use agreement for Southern Hills Community Recreation Initiative, SHCRI, to use the Mueller Civic Center for youth gymnastics from November 2021 through February 2022, coinciding with the Hot Springs High School use of the facility for gymnastics.
Second.
Discussion.
I understand that, everyone wants to make sure that everyone's treated equally and we do need to pay our bills and I know we have discussed coming up with a for nonprofit level of payment. They have been paying this amount in the past, and I understand that they knew that this was going to be coming up for changes. I'm not sure of the specifics of when, where, or how that was expected. But since the gymnastics equipment is in place and you just as well be using it at the time that it's just sitting there, that's why I promote that we allow one more year at the price that they were getting it at, and then with them thoroughly understanding that there will be probable changes for years coming up and we all need to make arrangements. So I really want to support the kids, the activities, and the equipment's just sitting there anyway, we should be using it. So I would promote one more year at the present price they have been paying.
Anyone else? Misty, would you call the roll, please?
David Burris,
No.
J.R. Huddleston,
Yes.
Deborah Johnston,
Yes.
Bill Lukens,
No.
Larry Pratt,
Yes.
Craig Romy,
No.
Caitlin Turner,
No,
Linda Barbell.
Yes.
You have a tie vote, Mayor.
I was marking them down. Okay, first, I want to acknowledge the kids that were kind enough to send me a thank you. I think it's important that they be acknowledged. My handwriting is very similar to theirs, which means in some cases I'm not able to read it. Isaac, Kelsey, I appreciate you reaching out and sharing this. I also got a email in support of it. What we have talked about tonight, Deborah just spoke about as far as what the proper rate should be. Mike had spoken to the fact that a nonprofit fee was suggested. I had mentioned that in the Parks meeting that we need to consider a nonprofit so that it would be across just different kinds of fees that the city is charging, so that nonprofit groups could take advantage of those and what is the right fix for those, what might be the right amount for that nonprofit fee. I'd also talked about the fact that council went to a lot of work to approve the fee schedule for 2020. And we always talk about setting precedents. And when we exempt something from our ordinances, it makes it, we set ourselves up for everyone else coming in and saying that they also want an exemption. And I think it's important that at some point, as difficult as the choices are, that when we ask our city residents to adhere to our ordinances, and we start holding them responsible for that, we need to hold ourselves responsible for what we have put in place to manage the city. I regret, it's disappointing that some folks have wanted to make this a conversation of, if you vote no against this, you don't like kids, you don't support kids. That isn't the case. There are decisions that are not easy decisions to make. And in this particular one, I'm going to vote no. So, as I understand it, that means the motion does not pass. Is that correct?
That's correct.
On to new business items. New business item A, possible motion discussion of approval plan of track MG-1.
I'll make a motion to approve a plat of track MG-1 and track MG-2 of Catholic Hot Springs addition to the city of Hot Springs, Fall River County, South Dakota, containing lots 1, 2, and 3 of track A and outlot 8 and track B and outlot 8 and lots 1 and 2 of track A and outlot 13 less lots H1 and H2 and portions of outlot 12 lying southwest of lot AB2 and track A and outlot 14 less lots H1 and H2 and outlot 13 less lots H-1 and H-2 and track JW and lot AB2 and outlot 12 and lot AB3 and outlot 13.
I'll second that motion and very clear.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. New business item B, a possible motion discussion to approve the plan of lot S-28 farm.
I make a motion to approve a plat of lot S-28R and tract 5R, REB of Boulder Falls Business Park, City of Hot Springs, Fall River County, South Dakota, formerly lot S-28 and tract 5R of Boulder Falls Business Park.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. New business item C, a possible motion discussion to approve the following liquor and retail wine licenses.
I'll make a motion to approve the following liquor and retail wine license renewal applications. American Legion Post number 71, Big Time Pizza, Buffalo Dreamer Restaurant LLC, BW Gas and Convenience Retail LLC, doing business as Yesterday number 1177, CSE, doing business as Winter Circle, Contour Corp., doing business as Bourbon County, Dakota Mart Inc., doing business as One Dakota Mart, Golden Midwest LLC, doing business as Dollar General Store number 18181, Family Dollar Stores of South Dakota LLC number 7126, Frankie's Place LLC, the Commerce Store, doing business as Morning Sunshine, Hanging J LLC, doing business as Red Rock River Resort, HSP Locked Properties LLC, Sunny Superfoods, Southern Hills Golf Course, Springs Hotel LLC, doing business as Springs Coffee Kiosk, Springs Restaurant, and Louis Western Grill.
Second.
Need some oxygen?
So I had a question on these. If you have a business that's pending a sale, do we go ahead and approve their license?
They need their license to continue to operate after it expires, so they'll have a transfer if they're gonna transfer. that
Oh,
license.
okay. That, I just didn't understand.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I also have a question. Is Frankie's Place still a going concern? Or is that in the same guidelines as?
I've seen it open a few times.
Yeah, it's open now.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
okay.
seen them open again.
I lead a sheltered life, I hadn't seen them open for the last couple of years.
I left here about 4 today.
Okay.
Took the bus home.
Did you ask if it was still a concern or if it was open?
I asked whether they were still in business.
Oh, okay.
My wanderings by there on their way back and forth from work, I haven't seen any activity there the last couple of years.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. New business item D, possible motion discussion to accept the resignation of Wally Cottrell.
I make a motion to accept the resignation of Wally Cottrell from the board of the Business Improvement District Board.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. New business item E, possible motion discussion to approve a travel training request.
Make a motion to approve the travel training request for Pete Miles, Tad Harder, and Tyler Morrow to attend the SWARWS Water Distribution Operator Certification Training and Exam in Spearfish, South Dakota on 11/16/21 to 11/18/21.
Second.
Discussion.
Everybody but Tyler Morrow has the 325/115. Why is that on the third page? Total available training, travel training budget remaining department.
That's what I was gonna ask. Taylor don't have enough hours to take that test yet. Don't you have to work a year in there before you can take it?
To the last question.
The question amount, Larry, to answer your question, that's the amount remaining in budget. And some of them are from the water department, some of them are from the wastewater department. That is why you see the difference. I asked Tracy the same question about the training and the amount of time. There are actually 4 different categories of certification. There are 4 levels for each of those 4 areas. We as a system are Class 1 water treatment facility and a Class 2 water distribution. We're Class 2 wastewater collection and Class 3 wastewater treatment. At this time, he's the only city employee who holds all of the required certifications for our entire system. It's a continuous process that the staff is working to obtain all of the certification levels. Furthermore, they all have contact hour requirements each year that must be met in order to renew their certifications. The training courses are free to the city and count as meeting the requirements for contact hours as well as the exams. Given the contact hour requirements, staff will always need to be going to these classes periodically in order to maintain their certifications and stay legal.
Okay. I have no problem with it going, he can't take the test yet.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Committee reports, administrative and finance, JR, Caitlin?
Present, it's at 1 o'clock today. Present was Mayor Bob Nelson, co-chair J.R. Gross, Councilman Bill Lukens, Councilwoman Deborah Johnson, and Finance Officer Ms. Summers, Caitlin Witz. Old business, Fall River Highway Fuel System Repairs and Agreement. Fall River Fuel System Repairs and Agreement has been in place since the 80s and is currently up for potential renegotiation. We're waiting the new city administrator for a decision on that. Residential tax rebate discussion, 10/15/21 was the deadline for submission. Received 20 eligible for rebate, all new bills for payouts 2019, pay 2020, to the tune of $3,976 and change. For payouts 2020, pay 2021, $8,715 and change. Goal is to have all paid this year. New business review monthly finance reports. Data is not all inclusive and runs through October 27th. Unclaimed property reporting, nothing to report. No changes in banking or publications. CD is coming due, awaiting banks to get back to us. Finance officer has a full report. Review proposed changes to personnel policy to address smoking and medical marijuana. Review guidance from SDPAA and others. Discuss medical cannabis use, leave usage, etc. Draft of additions will be on the info packet only for council next meeting. Review how city plans to license medical marijuana dispensary establishments. Review and discuss draft documents. Discuss local government compliance certification form. E, application compliance process is ongoing, and we're still getting guidance from the state. Review SRO joint agreement with the school. School has the agreement and is sent to their safety for review and comment. Our hope is this agreement will be on the next council agenda. The draft agreement for review on the info only side, and we have 3 applications right now. We're waiting for more responses. It's hell getting old. Review garbage service RFP bids due on November 9th, and our hope that Public Works will forward their recommendation to the council next agenda, November 15th. City Administrator opening update, interviews have been completed. Department heads have met with the candidates, and selection is to be determined. Street shop propane tank ongoing, discussion tabled to the Public Works. Discussion review, EPMS bonus sign-on and new POS floater, that was tabled. MCC needs $10,000 initial budget authority in 2021 for leak under theater concrete. Chris discussed issues at the MCC referring to pumps needing to be dialed up, about 2,500 through DNR. Pad replacement at the rear of the MCC on pause, possibly use of those funds for the leak under the concrete under the stage. May need additional funding for new vault and balancing compressors. Ordinance revisions, Ordinance 1230, 61721, now updated on the website, cost $2,651. Discussed annual submittal process, possible inclusion on our website. Review, discuss occupational wage data from SDDOL, table. Review, discuss 2022 workers' comp renewal billing and slight budget coverage, that was tabled. And we had some member discussion at the meeting, but nothing was like. Meeting ended at 3:35.
Sounds about right.
Next meeting is December 6th, 1 o'clock, the Wheeler Center.
Any questions for JR? Okay. Thank you. Airport advisory, Bill?
The Airport Advisory will meet this Thursday, November 4th, 8 a.m. at the airport. Public is welcome.
Thank you. Custer Falls River Regional Waste Management, Larry?
Next meeting is November 18th, Wheeler Center at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Historic Preservation, Devin?
They meet this Wednesday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. here at the Miller Center. Everyone's welcome.
Thank you. Evidence Pledge Advisory, Linda?
We will meet on, November 18th. They set it back another week because Veterans Day was the week before at the Evidence Plunge at noon.
Thank you. Parks Recreation, Larry?
We'll meet this Wednesday, November the 3rd, at the Wheeler Center here at 1 p.m. Everybody's invited.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning, Deborah?
Planning and zoning met October 20th. Present were Don Olsted, James Forborn, Wayne Kegeman, myself, Scott Sobey, Carrie Pyle, and guests were Martin Light and 2 family members, Deb Garcia and Kim Moyer. Minutes were approved. New business, Damon and Stephanie Danzler. We're looking for options for access to track FA. Scott explained the Danzlers are attempting to get access to Sandpiper Drive on the south side of the golf course, Boulder Falls area. After discussion, it was determined the best solution would be for them to work with the Boulder Falls Homeowners Association and a request to be annexed by the city. It's a piece of property that's actually in the Country Club Estates, but it's landlocked. But there's a Boulder Falls Road that goes right alongside of it. So they need access to their piece of property. So contact was made with him, Damon Dantzler, by phone, and this was explained to him. He confirmed his property is currently in Country Club Estates, and that he would contact Boulder Falls Homeowners Association and the City of Hot Springs to be geographically annexed into the city. Then Nathan Simpson was requesting a side yard setback variance, requesting and confirming the use of the existing minimal side yard setback for the reconstruction of a small garage. The locations of property points were provided by Anderson Engineers. The commission looked at the pictures provided showing the property points and the topography. It was determined that a hardship ruling is also a strong consideration in the side yard setback issue because of there's a steep hill that goes right along the side of it. The discovery work for renovation on the structure has been underway. The current lot line setback is 0 on the attached storage area. In order to retain the current building line, the owners agreed to work with the City of Hot Springs building inspector on the required specific fire-resistant reconstruction methods and fire safety. And Graham McPherson's changed wording on Mylar plat to be approved, and you guys approved that tonight. The Mylar plat had been previously approved by the P&Z Commission and City Council, but had been misplaced before being registered with the tax assessor's office. Due to the time that has elapsed and a revision of Track 2 name change, the plan has to be approved by City Council. The P&Z Commission recommends approval of plat Track MG-1 and Track MG-2 of Catholic and Hot Springs Edition to the City of Hot Springs, Fall River County, South Dakota. And then you also got and approved tonight the Boulder Falls Business Park Lot 5-28R and Track 5R approval of the plat revision. Guests Kim Moyer and Deb Garcia explained that the wording on the tract required correcting. It had been approved previously, but before it was filed with the Fall River Courthouse, Tract 5R was included in land sold to and then filed by Todd Wilson. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends the City Council approve the plat of Lot S-28R revised of Boulder Falls Business Park, City of Hot Springs, Fall River County, South Dakota, on the November 1st meeting. And then Martin Light, erecting a 24 by 12 ADU on a current single residence property at 843 North 24th Street. Scott explained that the property owner, Martin Light of 843 North 24th Street, had presented plans to him for adding an accessory building to his property. Mr. Light's property currently includes lots 5, 6, 7, and 8. In order to make the property eligible for the building permit, he agreed to have it replatted and remove the interior lot lines and creating a single tract. After discussion of the specifications of the additional living unit, the commission agreed to approve the 12 by 24 additional unit construction with the stipulation that the new building will be erected using IRC approved building construction methods and following Hot Springs ordinances. They will continue to work with Scott. And then there were old business was not discussed. Meeting adjourned at 8:25 p.m. The next meeting is November 17th. I believe that's a Wednesday at 9 p.m. or at 7 p.m. here at the Mueller Center.
Any questions for Deborah?
When do they go back to 6?
I think after daylight savings, so they might like move to change that at the next meeting.
Okay.
That's what we did last year.
Thank you, Deborah. Public safety, Bill, Jared?
Public safety will meet Monday, November 15th, 10 a.m. at the Mueller Center Conference Room. Public is welcome, and as we said earlier, we'll be discussing the fireworks ordinance. So if you have any input, please come around 11:30.
Thank you. Public Works, Dave, Greg?
Public Works met, excuse me, on October 26th at 1 p.m. here at the Mueller Center. Those in attendance were Caitlin Mossett and Shelley Brown, Craig Romey, and myself. Very short meeting. We met with Ms. Mossett and Ms. Brown discussing the bump outs when the street project is ongoing and getting towards its end for decoration. They were asking about water, power, things of that nature. But we were just asked a few questions they weren't really ready for, so they're going to come back again with some more information. But we are looking down the road with these projects, so we're just kind of getting our ducks in a row as far as that goes. Due to the fact of other meetings going on through town, we didn't have a whole lot of folks there or information for the different departments, but Mr. Morrow came in a little late as we were going out, and we sat down and talked with him for a bit. And street maintenance department, we're looking at on Battle Mountain Road needs millings that the state has paid for. It has asked us to do the layout of it. We're looking at next season in June to take place for that particular project, just mainly because it's too cold and it's really good millings. And if you lay it out when it's cold, it's not going to set up good and it'll pretty much wash away. So we're going to wait till June, and the state is on board with that. Tennis court lights, we have an issue with that. We also have Wilson Electric and Shamonic Electric taking a look at that. And as soon as they get back to us and give us the information and possible bids on the jobs they think need to be done with that, we will visit that again. The 1989 International dump truck that we have is in actually good shape, runs very well, it's been very dependable. We needed a hub for it, took quite a while, but we do now have a hub for it, so it will be repaired here shortly. It's probably already repaired now.
And they rebuilt the front end on it.
Yes, they figured while they was doing all that work, they would go ahead and repair some of the things that they was noted to have issues with. And in the process, just like that chain link, certain things need to be done in order to get the front end fixed correctly without backtracking and tearing it all apart again. So they're doing all that. Can't really read. Oh, the storm inlet, that's all done, but we did know that already, and we've reported it. So trees have been trimmed, covering yield sign on the 20th and Baltimore. That has been done. And so we have, I guess we would say 2 finishing times, but when we actually left here, it was about 2:30. So,
And they have all the culverts done in Valley View, but he has to cut in some drainage.
yes.
So,
And that's pretty much what we had going on that day. And our next meeting will be the 9th, I believe, at 1 p.m. here at Mueller Center at 1 o'clock. Please, anybody with any questions or any problems, please attend. Visitors are always welcome. Any questions?
Those lights, is that, gonna have any timers?
To go to that, we had the timers done once before, and they were repaired, but when they looked at it, the biggest problem was the wiring for particular lights were giving a feedback, so basically it was setting the timer off, so they repaired that. Now, we're actually looking at a timer and a couple of other wiring problems with the lights. Craig?
Didn't they say something about when they shut off, it's like 20 minutes before they can turn it back on or something like that?
And as a rule with that type of a gas light, it does take about 5 minutes. Once you turn it off, it's like starting all over again. So it takes it a bit to kick on, but 20 minutes is a little bit excessive. So there is an issue there, but until we get Wilson's Electric or Shamonic's Electric there to take a good look at it, we're just kind of in the dark. So, yeah, as soon as we get that, we will move forward with it. As far as the quotes go, we have no clue what they're gonna find, so at this point, we can't even reference it. Any other questions from anybody? It was kind of a weird meeting, but department heads were on job sites. And we had a citizen had an issue, and then we were also doing some interviews. So everybody was kind of busy at that moment, so that's why the meeting was so short and kind of broke up in little sections.
Anything else, Kurt?
I do want to comment, the ladies was not too sure about the bump outs at Big Bats.
Yeah, they were asking about water, and we explained to them, just as we were explained to by DOT, there could be times where a truck will cut it too sharp or be too big for that intersection. And so water and stuff like that, and I told them, in my opinion, I wouldn't change anything or scrap their ideas until we get really close to actually having it done, and then we can take a good look. And because the best laid plans are always great and everything works, but when it's done, let's take a good look at it, then we know with what kind of issues we're going to be dealing with. So, but to add to that, also, we did discuss, as a side note, of coinciding the volunteerism from the different groups, and there's many groups that have volunteered in the past. We're going to try to coincide their collection, the Great American, they call it the Great American Cleanup, is that correct? And we're going to try to set it up so they do theirs a week prior to the city doing free trash day, dump day. And that way, whatever they don't take, folks don't just take it right back home and unload it, just for it to sit for another year. If we can do that kind of code, it actually gives everybody the opportunity to dump for the different groups, stuff that could be recycled. And then for the city, whatever they can't take, hopefully we can. But we would like everybody to know that if you have refrigerators and freezers, that has to be evacuated and tagged before you bring those down. So, yep. So,
Comment number 2.
Go ahead.
The bump out at Len's Dakota Mart, and let's get a sprinkler system in there. They're not interested in taking that one on because it's going to be too big of a project. So that's something the city needs to look into if we want that to look nice.
Yeah, we pretty much told them that we would get more information on that. And as I said earlier, when the projects are actually being done, we can see what problems we're gonna have and how we can either work with them or.
What were you talking about at Lynn's?
There's gonna be a bump out at Len's.
Between the gas station and the store?
You know,
Across from the.
the road gets
Okay.
redone going through that lot, that state lot, and there's gonna be a big bump out in between the highway and that new street.
Gotcha.
We will have to answer their questions, we'll have to sit down with Tracy, and quite possibly Tracy might have to ask questions of the DOT. So further information is needed to kind of answer some of their questions. But I don't think I brought it with me, but they do have a good plan as far as their plantings and stuff like that. I don't want anybody in the community to think that we are gonna shut them down on that. We're trying to work with them, and they have some very good ideas. But it's gonna take a little bit of work, and we have to make sure that the effort that's put into that is not to get destroyed. And that's kind of why we're starting so very early on getting all this in mind. So,
One more thing. They talked about when they have their project down there, you can take refrigerators down there. There's a guy that drains them, and it's all, people donate money to where people can have it drained down there and get rid of the refrigerator. When they do theirs down at the park, not the city.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
last 2 times they've done it, they sent quite a few of us away. The whole trailer full of fridges because they're full, but yeah,
Yeah.
they told me that too.
and
They'll
that's,
drain them until they're full, and then you're not allowed, you better be first in line next time.
but they're gonna have somebody there that they're working with. So, and the thing is quite possibly they can get a donation back by having that. But the works that the volunteers are doing is greatly appreciated by the community. And, you know, no matter what anybody does as far as volunteerism, there's always a cost there. And sometimes it hurts the volunteers. So this coming year, we want to lock down a schedule and have a good idea at the beginning of the year what their projects are gonna be. So the city can work hand in hand with them, or at least set up areas that they can go to drop off, have drop points here and there. But we're just now working on that, so that will be coming up, and then hopefully we can get all that on our websites and their websites, so city information will be out there for those that want to also volunteer, even as a private person, not part of any group. You know, they will take any, and so will the city will take any volunteers that want to help. But we'd like to schedule that out, because if we don't, basically, I have to arrange it where we end up pulling off city employees from doing things that we need to get done to help them. So with a schedule, it'll work a lot better, and we can probably get more things done. But don't forget these groups that volunteer here in town, they do have a cost also. So any type of donations or help or anything like that is always greatly appreciated.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, gentlemen. Southern Hills Golf Course. I didn't have a report for you last time, so this is, the golf course committee met on October 12th at City Hall. Fall maintenance has begun, greens aeration is complete, and fertilization is ongoing. Seasonal employees are leaving, the clubhouse will close October 31st. The most recent balloon tether was last Saturday out at the driving range. Wasn't as successful as the first one they had. They were competing against Halloween itself, and weather wasn't ideal for it, but they still felt it was very successful. They were raising money towards the murals on University Avenue. Clubhouse foundation repair, Albertson's engineer has been hired to design that for us. We haven't got that back from them, but once we get that back and see what the cost is, then we'll figure out what our next steps are for getting that repair done. They started a Don Gannon annual golf tournament last year. I had another one this year, and it was very successful. The funds will be utilized to construct additional cart paths on hole number 15. We're still hoping to get that done yet this year. We're still talking about golf course future goals for revenue increase, and that's generated a lot of spirited conversation and how we do that. We can do that through increasing memberships or green fees. So we're still kicking that around, trying to figure out what the right fix for that is. And we're also going to need to be addressing replacement of Kathy, clubhouse manager. She has indicated that if need be, she'll still work through July of next year to help get the new clubhouse manager on board. We'll continue working towards that. That's all I have for the Southern Hills Golf Course. They'll begin meeting as needed because the golf course will be closed. Do you have any questions for me? All right. Finance Officer, Misty?
Thank you, Mayor. I prepared the monthly financial reports, and I would point out that those are only through October 27th due to timing. They don't include all of the revenue and expenses for the month of October. As you look at your profit and loss summary by fund, you'll notice we hadn't even posted our receivables for the water, that was water, wastewater, and solid waste that was billed for the month. So that's why those revenues so low. On the report, you have both your year-to-date profit and loss summary report and your fund summary reports. We also have the cash balance reports and then the investment reports by institution and type that you're used to seeing. By the October 15th meeting, I'll have prepared for you the presentation of the rates that we received from our 4 lending institutions, the CD, the Cemetery Integral Care Fund CD that's maturing on the 12th. I did get the last rate today, so I'll be presenting that to you at the next meeting, recommending that stay at SD bid. So you'll see that on the next agenda. I updated you on the South Dakota unclaimed property reporting that we're required to do. And I was able for the first year since I started to file what they call a negative report. So it seems like I'm taking a lot of time to tell you about something I didn't do, but all the effort that it takes to get us to a point where we are getting the property back in the hands of the rightful owner and not escheating it to the state as unclaimed property takes constant supervision and phone calls and watching as we reconcile our bank statements and making sure that people are cashing like the water deposit refund or checks that we issue them. It's important to us that those get done in a timely manner because the state law says that we can only hold on to it for so long, and then after that we gotta give the money to the state. It makes a lot more sense to try to contact someone quickly who's not cashing a check because it's easier to follow a trail if they've moved on. So for the first time since I started, and we got in compliance for the first time with this requirement, we were able to file a negative report. We started work and discussions on the second and final supplemental appropriation ordinance for 2021 and the last contingency transfer resolution. At this time, I'm reaching out to department heads and requesting inputs from any remaining budget additions needed prior to the end of the year. If anyone has a crystal ball, it would be helpful during this time. The second appropriation is when we estimate and budget for the internal water and wastewater user charges and subsequent forgiveness. So you can expect to see a number of entries in this last appropriation related to that. As a reminder, we take these necessary steps to ensure that we stay in compliance with the law, which states in part that neither the governing body nor any department or officer of a municipality shall add to the municipal expenditures in any fiscal year any sum in excess of the amount provided for in the annual appropriation ordinance. The last few months of the year are critical for budgetary reviews and controls, so I want to remind you that in addition to these reports, the blue binder is available at City Hall that breaks down revenue received and expenses per object and department. So if you wanted to take some additional time to review that, it's available for you at City Hall. I've also begun the rough drafts of the required first of the year resolutions, which include the designation of banking institutions, designating the official legal newspaper, and the wage scale resolution. At this time, I'm planning for no changes to the status quo, so please let me know as soon as possible if you have input on any of these topics. I have drafted the changes to our City of Hot Springs personnel policy, adding language recommended by our insurer, the South Dakota Public Insurance Alliance, to address the legalization of medical cannabis and the impacts those changes have on our existing personnel policies. While updating the policy with these required changes, we're also recommending some other clarifying language with no real significant changes to existing policy. A draft of the document will be available on the information-only side of your 11:15 council meeting packets for your review and inputs, and we hope to have the updated policy on the agenda by the first meeting in December for your approval. JR gave you an update on the now repealed residential tax rebate. The deadline has passed. As of the deadline, we had 21 approved applicants, with all of them being new builds. With the assistance of the Fall River County Treasurer and the Director of Equalization, we've created a document that will be used to verify the applicable rebate and request payment from the city. We're currently behind 1 year, that's 2019 paid 2020, and right in time for this year, which is 2020 paid 2021. So we've taken the responsibility of completing these forms for eligible applicants for these 2 years. And once complete, we'll be contacting them for a signature and then paying out approximately $12,691.20 in rebates for these 2 years. We anticipate these amounts to rise each year for the next 4 to 5 years and then begin to taper off until we're fully paid out. Going forward, the City Finance Office will send out letters in late September to all eligible property owners with a blank form and notice to complete and submit the form no later than 12/31, with rebates promised no later than April of the following year. If you're interested in reviewing any of this detailed information, please let me know. We've been fielding a number of calls at City Hall about our newly approved medical cannabis dispensary allowance. We're busy working with interested parties and our attorney attempting to answer all our lingering questions and to prepare the appropriate forms and licenses for our circumstances. We have had some great examples from a number of municipalities to get us started and hope to have something to share by the beginning of next week. It's proven difficult to just copy and paste what other communities are doing, as we're not all the same in what we decided to allow, in what ways which we are allowing them, and in which locations. Since we're a jurisdiction with a cap ordinance in effect after October 1st, applicants, according to the South Dakota administrative rule that I reference in here, have 90 days to submit a complete application to the state, which means by January 26, 2022, a complete application to the state includes meeting and confirming compliance with all state laws, which are found in Chapter 34-20G, as well as the inclusion of a required form established by the state titled Form E, which is a local government compliance certification. This certification must be signed off on by a designated city employee, so discussing who that might be, and states that the applicant meets all applicable jurisdiction requirements. I'm concerned with the form for 2 reasons. One of the requirements of both our licensing and zoning ordinances are that applicants obtain the appropriate valid and current cannabis establishment registration certificate issued by the South Dakota Department of Health. Although they can't apply without our certification Form E, I'm assuming our certification will be contingent upon the state issuing the certificate, but nothing states that. Since writing this, I have reached out to the medical cannabis licensing administrator at the state level and received confirmation that we can say, no, they haven't. If we say that consistently on all applications and that the way they'll score for who gets it is affected all the same, we can wait to issue our final, have them apply and issue our final certification once the state has provided them their registration certificate. We also only have 2 licenses available, and we wish to rely on the state for the lottery since they've promulgated rules and a scoring system for such a lottery. Nothing's ever easy. This is no different, but we'll keep working on it and work through it. Lastly, I'm so excited to hopefully be welcoming a new city administrator soon. I've said it before, I can't say it enough. This valuable position serves such an important role and it's been severely missed.
Any questions for Misty? Thank you, Misty. First, I'd like to thank council members Marvell and Grant and city staff Gary, Misty, and Tracy for participating in the annual Halloween Merchants Trick or Treat on October 30th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. They donated their time to make sure our kids had a safe and enjoyable evening. This is another example of the dedication to Hot Springs our council and city employees demonstrate daily. Thank you again. The pre-bid meeting scheduled by South Dakota Department of Transportation on Thursday, October 21st for the Highway 385 Reconstruction project was well attended by prospective bidders. Tracy did a great job of explaining the city's portion of the road reconstruction project. The bids for the project are scheduled to be open this Wednesday, November 3rd. The interviews for the city administrator are complete. I'll talk with the council tonight during an executive session about those interviews. My intent is to then make an offer to fill the position and have that individual on the November 15th council agenda for your consideration. And finally, as a notice to Hot Springs residents whose garbage collection day falls on the Thanksgiving holiday Thursday, November 25th, your collection day will be changed to Wednesday, November 24th. This notice is also on the city's official website, the city's Facebook page, your water bill, and will be in the Fall River County Herald Star. Any questions? Need a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session for South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-21 personnel.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes, and there will be no action taken after the executive session.